the tanks that shouldn't exist. The Galactic Council Hall was never meant to feel small. Its architects, 8 species working in arrogant harmony, designed it to overwhelm the senses. The ceiling soared like the sky of a gas giant. The walls gleamed with metallic alloys mined from stars long dead. Every sound echoed with calculated importance. But on this day, with billions of viewers tuned into the Council's live stream, the chamber felt suddenly fragile. The first tremor was faint, a soft vibration underfoot, barely noticeable. Most delegates ignored it. The aquatic Sinvar representative mistook it for a filtration cycle. The insectoid Harkeen assumed it was a cleaning drone malfunctioning again. But then came a second tremor, harder, deeper, rolling through the floor like the fist of an awakening god. Diplomats froze mid-sentence. Translation orbs flickered. Holographic displays wavered with static. Seismic irregularity detected, announced a security drone in a sterile voice. No one believed it. The Council Hall was built on orbital stabilizers precise enough to measure a heartbeat. Tremors did not happen here. A third tremor hit. This one rattled the chairs. Delegates exchanged alarmed glances. The air rippled with tension. Council guards reached for their shock pikes. Emergency protocols whispered over every comm channel. "What in the void is that?" hissed Representative Velos, her crystalline body pulsing with warning light. Before anyone could answer, the massive doors at the far end of the hall began to glow red, then buckle. A thunderous metallic roar filled the chamber. Something was outside. Something pushing against reinforced alloy thick enough to withstand orbital bombardment. Sensors overloaded. Security feeds went dark. Defensive turrets descended from the ceiling and powered up with an electric hum. "Identify yourself," the Council AI demanded. What answered wasn't a voice. It was a tank. The left door caved inward as a steel titan forced its way through, treads grinding against shattered alloy. Its barrel, massive and ancient, swung with deliberate menace. Its armor gleamed with streaks of something dark and sticky, blood. Alien blood. A ripple of screams burst through the chamber. Then a second tank rolled in beside the first, engines rumbling like beasts from Terra mythology. The Galactic Empire's marshal, a towering 6-armed Graxian bedecked in warm metals, stepped forward with a sneer. "Impossible," he spat. "Terran relics? This is a prank. A human joke." But even he fell silent as scanners failed one by one, unable to analyze the tank's hull composition. Their armor was unknown, unreadable, wrong. Marshal Varric whispered a trembling advisor. "Those tanks shouldn't exist." The tanks halted at the center of the chamber, perfectly aligned, their cannons aimed directly at the council dais. Then the engines went quiet, and footsteps echoed. She stepped between them like a shadow carved from iron. A woman, human, unmistakably so, walked forward in matte black combat armor, each movement controlled and precise. Short dark hair brushed her jawline. Scars traced the side of her face like silver lightning. Her eyes were cold, calculated, weary in a way that only old pain could shape. The chamber went silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Some aliens recognized her immediately. Most did not, but all felt the instinctive chill of something dangerous, something predatory. "Baba Yaga," whispered the human ambassador, horror draining the color from his face. The name spread across the chamber in dozens of languages, like a curse carried on a cold wind. A legend, a myth, a ghost story told in military barracks. The human weapon that didn't officially exist. Marshal Varric barked, "State your identity. You have violated council protocol." Her gaze flicked him just once. He fell silent mid-roar. She walked to the center platform, the tanks flanking her like loyal beasts. The blood on their armor, thick streaks in sickening patterns, reflected the hall's sterile lights, casting crimson shadows onto the floor. Baba Yaga stopped at the foot of the dais and raised her head. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a razor's edge of command. "I'm not here on behalf of the human union," she said. "I'm not here for diplomacy. I am here because humanity asked for justice, and you ignored us." A murmur rippled through the delegates. She lifted a small device. A hologram bloomed into existence. Shaky footage of a burning colony. Screams. Smoke. Imperial troops firing into crowds of unarmed settlers. And finally, an execution. A man, bound, bleeding, defiant to the end. Her voice hardened. That was my brother. The chamber froze in collective horror. The Empire broadcasted his death across 12 sectors, she continued, as a warning to humanity, as a reminder of our place. Her fists clenched, but her voice never wavered. You expected us to bow. The tanks targeting lasers flickered across the walls, as if reacting to her words. You expected fear, a pause. But what you earned was me. Marshal Varric regained his voice, though it cracked with unease. You dare threaten the council? Baba Yaga looked at him with the coldness of a starless night. I'm not threatening you, she said. I'm informing you. She stepped onto the dais, meeting the eyes of every species present. Humanity is done asking. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted. Guards advanced. Alarms blared. But the tanks remained still, silent, waiting, as if the entire room hung on the next words spoken by the woman standing between them. The Galactic Empire came to realize, in that single breath of silence, that they were no longer in control. Humanity had come to the council, and Baba Yaga had come to collect a debt. What broke humanity? The council chamber descended into panic the moment Baba Yaga's words settled over the room like ash. Guards surged forward, forming a wall of armored bodies between her and the highest-ranking delegates. Others pointed shock pikes and plasma casters toward her head, hands shaking despite their training. But the tanks behind her did not move. They didn't need to. Every being in the chamber understood that if those cannons fired once, the council hall would become a crater. Seize her! Marshal Varric roared. His voice echoed with forced bravado, but his 6 hands flexed with a tremor he failed to hide. His instincts, deep, primal, warned him that this human was not prey. She was something else entirely. 2 guards stepped forward. The tank's targeting systems activated with a low, mechanical growl. Brilliant red laser dots painted themselves over the guards' helmets. They froze. The rest of the assault line faltered, fear rippling through them like a collapsing wave. Baba Yaga lifted her chin, exhausted patience in her eyes. Marshal Varric, do you truly wish to start a war with me? Right here, in front of the entire galaxy. Varric bared his teeth. You cannot intimidate the Empire. You are alone. Her smile was thin. Alone is when humans are most dangerous. The Council's oldest member, a translucent, floating elder of the Velos species, drifted forward, desperate to regain order. Terran, representative. I am not here as a representative, she cut in. I am here as a sister. Silence. Even the alarm klaxons seemed to soften. She projected the hologram again. The burning colony, fleeing civilians, Imperial troops firing indiscriminately. But this time she brought up footage the Council had never seen. Timestamps of the colony's unanswered distress calls. Records of human petitions for protection. Legal documents ignored by the Empire's bureaucrats. Roan's Landing requested Council oversight 6 times, she said, her voice steady but raw. They begged. They pleaded. They followed every protocol you demanded of lesser species. Her eyes scanned the delegates. And you did nothing. The Tsenvar ambassador stirred uncomfortably. The insectoid Harkeen clicked their mandibles in shame. A few species whispered to one another, some guilty, some terrified of the implications. But the Imperial delegation remained stone-faced. Baba Yaga continued. The Empire raided our settlement for the mineral veins underneath it. They wanted the land. They didn't want witnesses. She zoomed in on the execution, her brother on his knees. Laughing soldiers. The commander delivering the final blow. Baba Yaga's voice dropped. This wasn't a military action. This was extermination. The hollow vanished with a sharp crackle. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then Varric laughed. A harsh, grating sound. This is a council of civilizations, human. Not a stage for your emotional theatrics. Colonies die. Is the way of expansion. Baba Yaga didn't blink. Your words will be recorded for the War Crimes Tribunal. Varric's laughter died. She paced slowly across the dais, the tanks adjusting their angles to follow her like predators tracing their master's footsteps. You assume humanity is weak, she said, but you do not know us. You have never understood us. She looked at the council, and for the first time, some delegates felt something unfamiliar, shame. When we were admitted to the council, you classified us as a low-tier civilization with marginal strategic potential. You believed we were fractured, undisciplined, unsophisticated. The crystalline elder flickered in discomfort. Humanity hid its technological advancements from us. Because of you, she replied calmly. Because every innovation we showed you, the Empire stole. Because every colony that tried to stand on its own was subjected to economic strangulation, political sabotage, or she gestured at the frozen hollow frame of fire and bodies. Worse, she faced the Empire's representatives fully. You pushed us, over and over, until something ancient woke up. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The humans of old, the ones you feared in your naval projections, the ones your officers warned about, were not extinct. She touched the tanks behind her. We evolved silently. Out of necessity, one delegate stammered. These machines, what are they? Wraith steel prototypes, she answered. Adaptive alloy, neural link targeting, self-repairing hull matrices, built to deter invasion, but never used. Until today, the Empire's officers exchanged horrified looks. You hid these weapons? Varric demanded. Baba Yaga's eyes hardened. No, we hid our fear. The weapons were an afterthought. At the rear of the chamber, a cluster of minor delegates whispered rapidly. Many species had quietly resented the Empire's tyranny for centuries. Some even looked at Baba Yaga with something dangerously close to hope. The Council AI finally spoke, voice trembling with digital uncertainty. Emergency Resolution 77 initiated. Vote to classify humanity as a level red threat species will commence. Baba Yaga raised her hand. The AI stopped mid-sentence. Every delegate stared at her. You may vote however you like, she said. But understand this. Your decision will have consequences. Varric hissed. Are you declaring war? She stepped forward, unarmed, unflinching, terrifying. I am declaring that humanity will no longer kneel. The tanks surged, engines rumbling to life with a sound that made the entire chamber vibrate. Baba Yaga's voice was quiet, but it carried like a blade through still water. If the galaxy insists on treating humans as enemies, she touched her brother's hollow one last time, then humans will show you exactly what kind of enemies we can become. The chamber erupted into chaos. But nothing, no shouting, no alarms, no scrambling guards, could drown out the realization settling over the council. Humanity had changed, and the galaxy was not ready. Judgment Day in the council hall. The council had weathered riots, coups, assassinations, and interstellar wars, but had never endured anything like this. A single human woman standing calmly between two blood-stained tanks while the galaxy's most powerful species panicked like cornered animals. Alarms blared. Guards shouted conflicting orders. Delegates climbed over each other to reach the exits. The once revered Chamber of Unity had devolved into a stampede. Baba Yaga did not move. Her tanks did. The left tank rotated with a slow mechanical growl, cannon lifting with predatory intent. The right tank angled toward the guards rushing down the main aisle, its engine rumbling like a beast hungry for violence. Marshal Varric knew that if even one of those cannons fired, the council hall and his career would end in the same breath. "Stop her," he screamed. "All units, fire." A dozen Imperial guards obeyed instantly. Blue and violet plasma bolts streaked across the chamber, sizzling through the air, and hit nothing. The tank's armor shimmered. A field, thin as a breath, invisible until struck, absorbed the incoming fire with a deep, resonant thrum. The redirected energy raced down the tank's hulls, into the floor, and discharged through the marble tiles with explosive force. The shockwave launched several guards backward, suits sparking. One slammed into a support pillar hard enough to crack the stone. Another skidded across the floor, unconscious. Baba Yaga looked almost bored. "I gave you a chance to stand down," she said quietly. "You are a terrorist." Varric spat. "No," she replied. "I am what happens when justice is denied." 3 guards, braver or more foolish than the rest, charged her with shock pikes raised. Their armor hummed with high-voltage charge. Baba Yaga exhaled once. Then she moved, a blur of black armor and cold precision. Her movements were fluid, almost gentle. She stepped inside the first guard's stance, twisted his wrist, and sent him spinning into his partner. A swift kick collapsed the third guard's knee. He hit the floor with a howl. She never struck to kill. She didn't need to. The guards dropped like reeds in a storm. Delegates watched in frozen disbelief. The myth was real. The nightmare their intelligence officers had mocked for decades stood before them, dismantling elite soldiers with terrifying efficiency. She turned to the council, her voice cutting through the chaos. Humanity asked for equality. She sidestepped a lunging guard without looking at him, and you answered with blood. She flicked his shock pike aside with a clang. "So now I am here to speak your language." The guard collapsed, alive but broken. A hush fell over the chamber. Even the alarms seemed to dim. Then Marshal Varric made the worst decision of his life. He slammed a fist onto his command gauntlet. "Orbital command. Initiate strike on my position. Now!" Delegates screamed. "Marshal, and oh, you'll kill us all. Abort! Abort!" But the signal was already broadcast. High above the council station, the Empire's orbital batteries ignited. Blue-white fire gathered into lances of destruction aimed directly at the council dome. Baba Yaga's expression did not change. The tanks reacted before she spoke. Their hulls glowed. A wave pulsed outward, a shimmering distortion that slid along the walls like liquid metal. For a heartbeat, the entire chamber hummed. The orbital strike hit. The dome should have vaporized. Instead, the energy folded inward, absorbed, redirected, sent roaring back upward into orbit. A flash lit the sky. Then explosions. Massive Imperial cruisers, those waiting overhead as Varric's safety net, erupted in a cascade of fire. Their shields overloaded. Their engines detonated. One vessel tore itself apart in a silent blossom of orange flame. The destruction was visible on every holographic display in the chamber. From one breath to the next, hundreds of Imperial officers died. Varric stared, mouth open, 6 hands trembling in disbelief. What have you done?" he whispered. Baba Yaga stepped toward him. Each step echoed like a verdict. "I warned you," she said softly. "Your violence always returns to you." "Sit down," she commanded him. Varric shook. I will have you." She raised one hand, and both tanks locked onto him. He swallowed his words and collapsed backward into his chair. Delegates held their breath as Baba Yaga addressed them. "You believe humans crave war. You're wrong." Her voice softened, not with weakness, but with truth. "We want a peace. We beg for it. We built for it." The hollow of Roan's landing flickered into existence once more. "This is what your peace cost us." Not a delegate spoke. Many lowered their gazes. Some wept. Others trembled with dawning guilt. "And if this continues," she warned, "the galaxy will burn." She let the silence hang. Then she spoke the words that would be replayed across every star system for centuries. "Recognize humanity now, or watch us become the monsters you forced us to be." Even the Council AI hesitated before responding. Resolution 77 suspended. The Marshal's actions violate 7 interstellar laws. Council emergency review initiated. Baba Yaga nodded. "Good." Varric, shaking with fury and fear, tried one last desperate act. He lunged. The left tank's cannon fired. A single deafening shot. Varric vanished, obliterated from the torso up. Only drifting ash remained. The council chamber became a tomb. Baba Yaga turned away from the dying ember of the Empire's proudest warrior and addressed the council one last time. "Let this be the last life lost today. Not a single delegate dared to disagree. The woman who shook empires. Silence clung to the Galactic Council chamber like frost. Not a single alien voice dared rise above a whisper. Even the heavy breathing of the council guards felt muted, pressed down by the gravity of the moment. Baba Yaga, Sergeant Alina Volkova of Earth, the name whispered like a curse in a dozen star systems, stood like a monolith at the center of the hall. The two human tanks behind her, still stained with the rusty blood of Imperial High Command, seemed to glare at the galaxy with their own feral eyes. But now the tanks were still. Now her enemies were in front of her, not under their treads. The Emperor's envoys had fled. The ZR-White Coalition delegates had leaned as far back as their chairs would allow. The reptilian crawl, once the loudest voices calling for humanity's pacification, were frozen, eyes wide, limbs trembling. The air vibrated with fear. And for the first time since arriving, Alina felt something shift. They knew what humanity was now. She took one step forward. The entire council flinched. "You want to make an example of us," she began. Her voice was low, too calm for what she had done, too steady for what she had survived. "You failed. Spectacularly." Her helmet rested under one arm, her face exposed. No expression, no mercy, only an iron calm forged in the ruins of her colony. Behind her, the hollow displays flickered, replaying her assault on the Imperial command spire. Her charging through fortified gates, her tank detonating barricades, her blade pulled from the corpse of the Imperial Marshal. Every alien in the chamber saw her not as a diplomat, but as a storm given flesh. "You think humans break," she continued. "You think pressure makes us compliant. But humans do not break. We burn." Her eyes swept the chamber. "And the last man who tried to burn us, you can find the largest pieces of him on the front of that tank." A few delegates visibly swallowed. One fainted, but one alien stood. It was Ambassador Virul of the Alarin, one of the few species who had never supported the Empire's campaign against humanity. They were tall, willow-like, silver-skinned, with bioluminescent lines that pulsed faster when afraid. "Sergeant Volkova," Virul said cautiously, "what do humans want? Not vengeance," he hoped. "Not conquest. Not extermination." Alina let the question sit in the air, heavy as a dropped anvil. The council stared. Her next words could set the galaxy on fire or save it. Finally, she spoke. "Respect." She let it ring out. Not fear. Not chains. Not surveillance. Respect. She pointed toward the blood-stained tanks, still terrifying but silent now. "You forced our hand. You slaughtered our colonists. You wiped out children who didn't know what a starship was yet. You turned our diplomats into targets. And then you acted shocked when the ones who survived came back stronger." She moved toward the central platform, toward the council's heart. The ground trembled just slightly at each step, as though the tanks behind her wanted to follow. "This," she said, sweeping her arm toward the silent hall, "was preventable. But humanity will not bow. Not to the Empire. Not to your threats. Not to anyone." The Croth Dominion delegate croaked. "Then what happens now?" Alina climbed the steps to the highest speaking platform. A human standing there was unprecedented. A human drenched in the blood of an Imperial High Command officer? Impossible. She raised her hand. The lights dimmed as she connected her wrist gauntlet to the council grid. A star map flared to life above her. The Empire's territories blinking in red, human colonies flickering in blue, contested systems in yellow. And then a new color, white, expanded like the spreading edges of a supernova. "This is what humanity proposes," she said. "We are forming the Terran Accord, a sovereign force, a defensive alliance, open to all species willing to stand against tyranny." The map shifted, showing potential trade lines, military defensive pacts, and resource exchanges. Not conquest, cooperation with teeth. "If the Empire wants war," she added, "they can come find me. I won't be hiding." The council murmured. This time, not in terror, in consideration, in awe, because she hadn't come to conquer them. She'd come to give them a choice. A Krull warlord stood, slowly, hesitantly. "Human, the Empire will send fleets to punish this. You know this. Alina nodded. Good, good. Because Earth is ready, she said simply, and they'll learn something important when their fleets arrive. She lifted her chin. The bloodied tanks behind her hummed awake, lights flickering, engines rumbling like mythical beasts preparing to move. When humans fight, she said, we don't stop because we're outnumbered. We stop when the job is done. A hush fell. A deep, shaking hush. Alina Volkova, Baba Yaga of Earth, placed her hand on the council podium. The tanks rolled forward 2 meters, just enough to remind the galaxy what she'd brought. Choose wisely, she said to the entire chamber. Stand with the Empire, or stand with the future. And for the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council bowed to a human. Not in fear, in recognition, in respect. The Empire, watching through their distant listening arrays, did not yet understand what had happened. But they would. Soon. Because Baba Yaga had spoken, and the galaxy had listened.